Apple and Nvidia aren't competitors per se in artificial intelligence, but I think what Apple is doing in AI is going to be a really big test for what Nvidia is trying to build. Apple is moving most of the artificial intelligence in Apple Intelligence onto the device using the existing chips that they have, because this is going to be backwards compatible to last year's iPhone. Then we'll also include this year's iPhone, but it's not likely that even this year's iPhone is going to be really optimized for artificial intelligence. So the models, the capabilities that Apple is going to bring to market is going to be using existing chips. The other thing they're going to be doing is a lot of the cloud compute that they're going to be using is actually run on Apple M2 chips. So again, they are not buying a whole bunch of Nvidia chips to operate their AI servers. They're using Apple chips. So the question here for Apple, for Nvidia is this good enough? I don't think there's any question that Nvidia's chips are going to be more effective for most artificial intelligence use cases. If you're a third party building an AI cloud, you're not going to do it with Apple M2 chips. But what we don't know right now in artificial intelligence is what's the level of good enough? What's the level of inference cost and performance that's good enough? What sort of speed is needed? What sort of compute can you put on device versus running it in the cloud? If you run a smaller model on device, but you have all kinds of information available on the device, is that going to be more effective than something that's in the cloud and has the world of information from the internet? These are all fundamental questions, and I want to go through exactly what these two companies' strategies are because they're very different. And depending on how Apple's intelligence product plays out, it could actually be the biggest threat that we see to Nvidia, because it would show where the bar is, what people actually want to use artificial intelligence for on a day-to-day basis on their device. So I want to get into exactly what we know from these two, because this is going to be fascinating to watch over the next couple of years. My name is Travis Hoium. Thanks for watching Asymmetric Investing. Please subscribe here on YouTube for all my content. And thanks to this video sponsor, The Motley Fool. If you go to fool.com/ASYM, they'll give you their top 10 stocks to buy right now. First of all, let's show what the latest products are from these two companies. Here you can see Nvidia's latest product, the Blackwell GPU. And this is not any sort of GPU that you're going to be putting in your computer even. This is a massive server. So Nvidia has really moved from being a graphics card company where you're going to be having a chip in a lot of your devices to a company that's generating most of its revenue now from data centers. So even with this announcement, they had all kinds of comments from Alphabet's CEO, from the CEO of Amazon, Dell, Meta, all of the customers who are buying all their products, and they are building data centers to power their artificial intelligence. What Apple is doing is moving that inference, the actual intelligence, onto the device. Now, this is not coming out until this fall, so we'll see how this actually works. But what they're going to do is use a much smaller model that's going to be able to run on existing devices, and they're going to provide sort of limited capabilities with that model, but it's going to have all of the information that's on your device, whether that's pictures or emails or text messages. And so it's going to have a much better understanding of you as a user. So this is one of these fundamental questions about what is artificial intelligence actually going to be useful for and valuable for. As much money is being invested in AI today, we don't really have the answer to that yet. I think this is a pretty good vision for what artificial intelligence is going to be valuable for in the future. But the irony is it's not using the same compute power that most of the other AI companies are. And it moves that inference from the cloud, which is where ChatGPT is going to be doing their inferences, where Gemini is going to be doing their inferences. It's going to move that on device. So there's a couple of questions here. One question is going to be how many of these inferences can actually be moved onto devices as devices are built with AI more specifically built in. We know that Microsoft is introducing some products in their PC lineup that are going to have the capability to do some of their inferences on the device. They're going to be speccing out what that needs to look like for device manufacturers. Apple, obviously much more vertically integrated. So they're going to build both the software and the hardware to make this possible. But the other interesting part of this is that Apple is going to be using its own chips in the cloud. It is not going to be doing kind of the first layer of cloud inferences with NVIDIA chips. So there's going to be the inference that would happen if you're doing an artificial intelligence call, you're asking Siri something. There's going to be a piece of that that's going to happen on your device, depending on what the question is. If it's a little bit more complicated, it may go to this initial cloud. And then you would also have the option to access ChatGPT and potentially other AI chatbots. but they are not building a massive server farm of Nvidia chips. They're using their own M2 Ultra chips is what has been reported here. And I think this is pretty well confirmed with other reporting as well. So the question is not, can Apple do this? The question is, can Apple do this effectively? And is it going to be good enough for the hundreds of millions of people who use their Apple devices on a day-to-day basis? And if it is, if it's good enough, then how much do we need to push, do these other cloud providers need to push into these extremely expensive systems that are built by Nvidia, where we're seeing tens of billions of dollars from companies like Meta, Alphabet, Amazon being put to use just to buy and build these systems? If those are more advanced than the average person needs, then are we overbuilding? I think that's going to be the fundamental question.
Thanks to our friends at The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/ASYM for the top 10 stocks to buy right now.
Apple's definitely not going to be taking over the AI model making market. So that's something that's definitely going to stay with something like Nvidia or Alphabet's TPUs. They're now training all of their models on their own TPUs. But the question is, what happens with the rest of the artificial intelligence industry? I think one of the big trends over the next few years is going to be a lot of this compute power moving from the cloud with these chatbots that we're accessing in the cloud to devices. So you're going to have an artificial intelligence layer that even APIs are going to be able to call on the device to access information that's either on device or information that's in the cloud. So this kind of hybrid structure, I think, is going to be something that we're going to be seeing more and more. We are seeing more of these AI-powered chips at least be announced, not necessarily in phones yet, but look for more and more Android phones being able to access some of this AI compute in the cloud. Wouldn't be surprised to see Alphabet announce some of those kinds of products for the Android operating system. So if that compute moves from the cloud to the device, that's going to be at least something of a threat to NVIDIA. The other piece is, do you have to build your data center with NVIDIA chips? I think that has always been the argument by Jensen Huang, is that they're much more cost effective from a total cost of ownership perspective. That's probably true today, but what is the level that is good enough? And if Apple can build a massive business with their Apple Intelligence product, with their M2 Ultra chips, by not using NVIDIA Blackwell, that's going to be at least an example of there being other options for tech companies who are building out these capabilities. So that's why this is going to be really interesting to watch. Apple's really the one company that has not leveraged NVIDIA at this point. And if they become the most successful AI company and the company that's actually doing AI interactions with people most on a day-to-day basis, that's going to kind of break down the way that we currently think about the AI market. But what do you think about Apple as a potential threat to NVIDIA? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe to Asymmetric Investing. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you here next time.